moving on to spoiler talk chat. I did finish Steins Gate 0. I don't really have that many thoughts about Steins Gate 0 as opposed to the end of Steins Gate. I don't know if that's a bad thing or not. One thing that kind of dampens Steins Gate 0 for me and mildly annoys me is the fact that the ending doesn't really have a lot of gravitas to it. The ending of the original show had, a lot of payoff, and it was very satisfying and had a nice narrative through line to the end. With 0, it kind of feels like, again, it does a bunch of plot points like, now we gotta deal with this, now we gotta deal with this. There was a point during this end part where I was really excited. When we were suddenly sent to the future, and we were in the World War III setting, I was like, okay, they haven't done this before. But then they just cut away from it, and then we only spent like an episode there. I was like, oh, well, you tease this, getting to see the characters in the setting, try and get back to the past, and then just immediately gets, ignored, basically. I was like, oh, okay, fine then. And then the penultimate episode, I didn't like at all. So in the penultimate episode of this show, the conflict is they got to shut down Amadeus. But I don't think this show did a good enough job of making you care for Amadeus. And even then, it was just another Christina goodbye scene, and I was just kind of like, we've done this before, show. We've done it this multiple times. Even in your own season, we've done this before. And a lot of the ending, impact-wise, it was fine. I didn't hate it, but it just felt like Steins Gate Season 1 light. Basically, a lot of the impact and resolution was what we've already seen before, so the impact of it was lessened, I believe. At least personally, anyway. And then again, yeah, the conclusion to this is Mayuri persuading Akabe to go back in time to go and find Steins Gate, the world line. And while I think that's good, I don't really see why the resolution to this is basically Mayuri being like to herself, you need to kick him in the balls and make him want to go back. It just kind of makes it seem like Mayuri fucked up. But the show does not transcribe it that way. The show is like, I don't know. I don't know what the show's doing. I don't know what the show did. But then we get the idea that Steins Gate line is then created at the end, and I guess a version of Akabe has a happy ending, because this is something I thought about afterwards. We're following a different Akabe with reading Steiner. Does this Akabe not get a happy ending? Because he's not the one we follow in Steins Gate, the main show. That's a different guy with different memories and experiences. This is someone who's continued on after that, and is now trying to get back to that point. Does that mean the Akabe we were following does not have a happy ending? What does this mean? I have no idea. Because there's two different reading Steiner Akabes. So, I have no idea. And then it kind of ends, and I like the ending. I don't hate the ending where we see Akabe's promise to go and find and save Mayuri by going back to the prehistoric times. I thought that was cool. But I just don't really know what the show was meant to be about. Was it meant to be about, what's the resolution here? Because it feels a lot to me like Steins Gate 0 is a massive epilogue with a lot of plot points that, have nice resolutions to them to a certain extent. I mean, they give Ruka a nice ending. They give Mayho a nice ending. But there were characters in this who appear and then just disappear. There's so much this season where it feels like we just want to do more Steins Gate, but don't necessarily know how to do it in a satisfying way. And then it kind of brings me back to the brainwashed child plotline, which I hate. I really don't like it. I think that the Amadeus was a lot more interesting when it was just about computer program Christina and dealing with that. But the show jumps around so much, we don't really get to spend too much time on that. And then when we do get to the Amadeus goodbye scene, it feels like it's out of nowhere. I think the show achieves a couple of things, mainly just being a slice of life and getting to see these characters again. I think it achieves that. But there are a couple of things where I would have been like, I think a lot of this show would be better if it didn't try and just beat Steins Gate again. Like, just do something different, and then have a different means to achieve Steins Gate at the end, rather than it just being go to the past and convince Akabe to just do the same thing again. Instead, we got this weird ending where I was just kind of sitting there like, oh, we're done now. I didn't watch the Valentine's episode afterwards either, because I didn't really see the point, because it wasn't set afterwards, it was set during the other events, and I don't really want to see sad Akabe again, so that was something that I did like about the ending, as we got to see mad scientist Akabe again. I enjoyed that. It was brief and didn't last very long. There's certain parts, again, that I do like. I don't hate the idea of Akabe going back in time through D-mails. They explained that well enough, and seeing his friends help him do that was cool. And Amadeus being alongside him during that was also cool. But again, it ends in the exact same way the original show ended. And I'm sorry, but you can't hit me with the same emotions twice, because it doesn't mean anything the second time. It's just, okay, goodbye, I guess. You were a character I wasn't meant to be attached to. That was the point, I thought, that we weren't meant to be getting attached to you, but no, I guess we are going to be. Good. But yeah, that's my review. I think it's a good B tier show, as opposed to Steins Gate, which would regard as